There are so many people that think Israel Adesanya is going to surpass Anderson Silva. I'm not one of them. Reason number one, he's been fighting for too long now. He's been a kickboxer already. He's had 100 something pro fights in his career. That includes kickboxing and mixed martial arts, and probably other fights he's had outside of being a professional that we don't know about. Um, and he's 30 something years old. He's in his prime, but some guys have been fighting for so long. Once they hit the same age that other fighters hit, like in their 30s, early 30s, they still start to go downhill. I don't think Israel's gonna go downhill. That's not why he'll lose. But again, he's had wear and tear on his body, so he can't go, you know what I mean, for a long time. At least I don't think he can. All fighters go through it at some point. Second reason is he's got a real bad attitude. He's very cocky. He's very arrogant, and I don't see why he has earned the right to do that. Anderson Silva had the same problem when he was in his prime. And I remember a fight when Anderson was fighting somebody, I think it was Damian Maya, a long time ago. He could have finished this fight anywhere, anytime. He chose to take it the distance. It looked like garbage, and he should have finished that fight. I think you're seeing something similar with Isreal Adesanya. Marvin Vettori's a good fighter. He's not bad. Got a lot of heart. I'll give him that. He can take the leg kicks like a champ. But clearly, he is no match for Isreal Adesanya. He will never be a matchup for Isreal Adesanya. No challenge. All right? But I just don't agree with how Israel behaves. He's humping Paulo Costa. He's grabbing Marvin's arse like he did in the end of the fourth round. He talks way too much, I just don't see where he's, a guy like that usually has an ego. They usually have their head swelling up after every fight. He was very disrespectful with Whitaker after knocking him out, saying stuff. And I just don't see where, I think it's going to come back and bite him in the butt. What I think is going to happen is he's going to lose to somebody from the next generation coming up, a young, hungry guy that nobody knows about but still ends up getting a title shot, and he'll end up losing for some fluky reason. For example, Anderson Silva got knocked out by Chris Weidman. Nobody knew who he was back then. Some people probably still don't know him. I hate to say that, but that's just the way it is. Hope he's healing up with his leg, by the way. I saw that nasty leg injury. He came along and he knocked out Anderson Silva. And then you have Adesanya with a very... And I actually think he's worse than Anderson Silva. So for that reason, he's not going to stay focused enough to even defend the title 10 times. Anderson Silva defended the belt 10 times. And let's not forget, he had wins over light heavyweight UFC Hall of Famers Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner. And he fought other guys like Patrick Cote, and even had a non-title fight with Travis Lutter. And that doesn't even include the long list of guys he beat to retain his championship. I'm not even going to go into that. You guys can look it up on Wikipedia. But, Anderson Silva had his day. Even in the Weidman fight, he was very cocky. He was dancing around. He was kissing him and doing all kinds of stuff. It looked like a kiss at the end of the first round. Look it up. And it came back to bite him in the end. So I think, Israel fought Blachowicz. Even then he said he has no chance of beating Israel. Israel thought he was the better fighter. And he didn't take him seriously, obviously. He didn't even handle the weight properly. He said he handled it like he would a middleweight minus cutting the weight. That worked out pretty well. My point is Israel has all the potential to be undefeated for a long time, but I don't think he's going to do it. Anderson did it longer than he did, and he fell short. I think he's going to have a few more title defenses, and then somebody's going to embarrass him. And it's going to be a bit of a fluky fight because he's going to take the fight lightly, and the guy he's fighting should have no business beating him. Let's be honest. Weidman should have never beat Anderson Silva, even when he broke his leg with the leg kick being checked or whatever it was. Let's be honest. Is Chris Weidman a better fighter than Anderson Silva ever was? No. Right now he probably is because he's done in terms of mixed martial arts. I'll talk about his boxing in another video. But look, Israel is going to get beat by somebody else. Now, speaking of Israel, I understand his next fight is probably going to be Robert Whitaker. Robert Whitaker is a good fighter. Don't get me wrong. He's already been the champion. He's beaten a lot of tough guys. But Israel's already knocked him out once. All right? And they say it's easier to get knocked out again once you've been knocked out once already. Now, I know Robert's also a smart fighter. He's a strategist. But at the same time, I don't think he has the talent to beat Izzy. Izzy's stand-up is just too good, despite how good of a stand-up fighter and wrestler Whitaker is. I think the wrestling will make it a competitive fight. I think this fight will go longer, maybe late third, early mid to mid fourth round. But I see Israel getting another TKO or a knockout in the fight. He'll defend his middleweight title. Whitaker's probably going to move to welterweight. I don't think he'll stick at middleweight if he can't beat Izzy. Now I'm not saying he has no chance against Israel. He can beat him because he has the skill set and the talent also. But if I put my money on this fight, I got Izzy winning this fight. And a very competitive fight. Might be fight of the night. Also, I got one more thing I want to talk about with you guys. I did a Pocky chip challenge earlier this week. It turned out to be pretty well. And you guys look through my channel. There's a noodle challenge I did. Well, check this out, guys. This is next. I will be performing probably Friday morning, and I'll upload it that day. And then we'll see if I can still do well against hot foods. I'm 3-0 against hot foods altogether. I've beaten the world's hottest chip. I beat a spicy noodle challenge ×2. And I beat another, the ghost pepper chip challenge, the little baggy thing that I had 2 days ago. Turned out pretty well, or was it yesterday? And I didn't struggle much. But this is the ghost pepper stuff. This is the noodles where you boil them and you put the hot sauce in it. I'm expecting it to be very, very difficult, but I expect to prevail again.